With Season 4 Part 2 of You recently being released on Netflix, it's brought the 40 episodes of the show that we've been given to a close. However, I certainly don't think that this is the end for Joe. But what it did make me think about was how far Joe has come as a character since he was first put on our screens back in 2018. The development of the character, the mental deterioration, the different love interests, the different aliases, and the different circumstances that he's found himself in is something that we've come to expect every season, and it's most definitely an enjoyable ride. So with that, I thought I'd take a look back and rank which season I think is the best out of all 4 of them, and also which is the worst. So let's get into it. Here is every season of You ranked. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Number 4, Season 1. Coming in last place on this ranking is most probably going to be a bit of a controversial one. Even though it's come in 4th place, it doesn't mean that it's a bad season. In my opinion, it just doesn't hold up as well when compared to the others. What I think this season of the show did really well was give us a standalone segment of what Joe Goldberg was like, and it put in the groundwork in order to build the foundations of the show that we have today. I thought Beck was a fantastic love interest in this season, and the creators of the show really allowed us to form a connection with her, before ultimately becoming a victim of Joe's. At this point, Joe didn't have any experience in creating new identities and was just living in the area that he found himself at. So he was the most normal that he had ever been, if you could call it that. But we were seeing how this charming man who was able to woo a love interest gradually went down the rabbit hole of obsession and was prepared to kill in order to be with her. And then when she didn't want to be with him, he killed her, showing the dark side of him. We also got the good balance of Joe having empathetic care embedded within him when it came to looking out for Paco and his neighbor, balancing the scales and showing us that there actually was a kind human being buried beneath his stalker-like shell, meaning that it tested our moral compass and made us question why we liked him so much when he's an evil human being. I also liked learning about Joe's past with Candace and how there was this dark secret and that he thought that he'd killed her, but then right at the end she walked through the door, providing a cool twist. Whilst this was a fantastic season of the show, I would say that it was the flattest out of them all in terms of story development, character development, and there was the least at stake, which was fine at the time, but when comparing it to everything that we've had since, the stakes are much higher now. Number 3, Season 3. Coming in 3rd place in this ranking is Season 3 of the show. I thought this season felt more like an aftermath than like a transition into what we got in Season 4 of the show. We saw Joe in a completely new environment in the suburbs with his wife Love and also with his son Henry. I loved the story that was focused around Love essentially becoming Joe and their behavior mirroring each other, and Joe not really liking what he saw, which showed him who he truly was. In terms of the side characters, I feel they were the least interesting out of all of the ones that we've had in the show's history. I wasn't a big fan of Sherry and Carey, and the neighbor that Joe was with was only in it for a short period of time. I even forgot about her husband and her son until I watched it back, so to me the characters weren't the best. Marienne was an okay love interest in this season, but I actually preferred her in Season 4 of the show. I feel we got more dynamic range from her character performance. However, Joe and Love did give some of their best performances in the entirety of the show in Season 3. That final episode was incredible, and the cover-up that Joe did with Exile being played in the background hits every single time that I watch it. Unlike in other seasons where there was a deterioration of Joe's mind, this one saw the deterioration of Joe and Love's marriage, so it was interesting watching it unfold. Number 2, Season 4. The runner-up on this ranking is the most recent season of the show, and that's Season 4, which includes Part 1 and Part 2. If they were to be split, Part 1 would have most probably come at the bottom, but Part 2 really did save the first 5 episodes and provided the context that we needed. This season of the show was full of twists, and it was quite a personal one. Even though Joe had the largest ensemble cast around him that he'd ever had, we got to take a look inside of his mind in a different way for the first time ever, and it was a harrowingly haunting place to be. I loved the twist that occurred with Marienne being alive and being kept in a cage, and I also loved the twist that was present with Reese Montrose being somebody who had never actually met Joe, but Joe being obsessed with him due to his erotomania and believing that he was real. Joe being obsessed with Reese instead of a woman was a great twist. It being his way of justifying his actions and making us believe that he wasn't obsessed with a woman was a really good trick, because what he actually did was far worse. It was a twist that was extremely satisfying when it was revealed. I also thought that the fact that they made the ending so bleak and dark, with Reese looking at Joe in the reflection of the window, highlighting that he was fully within the dark side of his mind, was something that was terrifying. I would say that Kate was probably the blandest love interest that we've ever had on the show, but I feel she wasn't given much to work with, so I'm hoping in season 5 she will improve. We saw Joe's mental state in a way that we'd never seen it before, and it even tied back to moments from earlier seasons where Dr. Nikki said how there were 2 versions of Joe, so it did all connect really well. Number 1. Season 2. Coming in first place in this ranking is none other than Season 2 of the show. I feel like this season embodied everything that the show is about. We saw Joe live as Will under a new alias, which I thought was a great start to the season. We got elements of compassion and care from Joe more than in any other season with Ellie, Will, and Delilah. We saw the best love interest in the entirety of the show be introduced, which was Love, and we got some great side characters too, like 40. The story was so in-depth, a lot more than any other season. We learned all about Candace as she came back and followed Joe to LA. We learned all about Joe's past when he was with his mother and the fact that he killed his father through the use of flashbacks. And we also saw Love, a character that we came to really connect with, become exactly what Joe was, providing a similar mental experience to what we had with Joe in season 1 of the show. It felt like season 2 was a real journey that we went on. We were escaping New York with Joe, and we were watching him live his life as Will and encounter this new love interest, and try to not do what he did with Beck. But in actual fact, it just wasn't possible to do, because Love was just as bad as Joe. I also think what made this season so good was that it hadn't been done before in the show. We'd only seen Joe in New York, so with him moving out to LA, we didn't know if he was going to be capable of being on the run. So we were looking around every corner and being just as suspicious as what he was. Season 2 is everything that the show is about, and I don't think there will be another season that's as good as this one. With Joe back in New York in season 5 of the show, we could maybe see a similar tone, but with him settled down with Kate, with a massive amount of money, it's going to be hard to see Joe like how he was at the start of the show, unless he pretty much loses it all. But I guess we'll just have to see. Season 2 comes out as the winner. So, there you have it, every season of You ranked. If you want to see more videos such as endings explained, theories and predictions, and character breakdowns, then click on the I button, or alternatively you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you'd like to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review, then head over to my Twitter, @brainpilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. Which season is your favorite? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.